Oh, yeah. So in this session, which is the last of the current term, the last of the academic year, we shall be looking at the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 20. Which is just to encourage you. It's got a really weird, convoluted double negative construction in the first line. Not only that, but I have seen learned Brahman commentators interpreting it in different ways. I thought I'd really cracked it and got it. Hey, I've got that one. And then I see another person who interprets it differently, as I shall explain in a moment. So I shall, as usual, read it out and then call it up on the shared screen. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन्नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. Just share screen and call it up. Share screen. Launch it. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन्नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. So the first pada is actually clear enough. न जायते म्रियते वा kadachit. So the kadachit becomes kadachin because of the following na. This is our commonly seen. You get a question word like kada, when, kim, what. And then if you add chit to it, that turns it into an indefinite expression. So kada, a question word, is a question word, interrogative word, meaning when. Kadachit means at any time, or in the negative, at no time, therefore never. Similar to some kim, meaning what. So kinchit means either anything or, in a negative sense, nothing, in a negative sentence rather, nothing. So you can use it with other cases as well. So kasya means who, of whom, belonging to whom, of whom, whose. And kasya chit would mean of whomever, belonging to whomever. So najayate mriyate va kadachit. Let me give you the Romanized version. Jayate, it's from the root jan, meaning to give birth or to be born, depending. As a class 1 verb, it's a regular class 1 janati, means to give birth, to produce. So the mother gives birth to a child. As a class 4 atmanepada verb, it means to be born. So it's broadly similar to a passive. Now, there is an irregularity there because you say, right, class 4 atmanepada, what does that mean? Let me call up the... So, Jan, class 1, janati, to give birth. But Jan, as a class 4 atmanepada, you would expect that it should be as a class 4 verb, janyate, but it's not. What happens is it's slightly irregular. The N drops out and the A lengthens, so it becomes jayate. So the irregularity is simply that the N becomes A. So instead of janyate, jayate. You'll see actually a similar kind of irregularity in the past participle of it, because the normally, as we know, um, to make from jan, it would regularly make a past participle janta, but it doesn't. That's wrong. It becomes jata. So jata meaning born. Um, and we have that name in Sujata, for example, meaning well born, which is cognate to the Greek name. Evgenis in modern Greek, but Eugene, we pronounce it in English, literally meaning well born. It's cognate with that. In fact, I think it was the farming girl, the cowherd girl was the name, Sujata was the first one to offer rice milk to the Buddha. Marco, I see you indicate by body language that I have correctly remembered that, have I? Was the name Sujata, so literally well born. So here we have Najayate Mrieteva Kadachin. This Mriete, it's from the root Mri. Let me just explain it here. So Mri, meaning to die, which is directly cognate, of course, with the Latin mors, la morte, mortal. It's that same root. Incidentally, cognate. You've heard of the moors, as in Dartmoor and the Yorkshire moors. That is the same origin actually, because the moors means the dead lands that are difficult to grow wheat on. They're good for the hardy sheep to graze, but not much else. That's why they're called the moors, the dead lands. But let me call up Moni Williams here with um, it's you can have Marati as well as a class 1 Marati, but much more common is Mriete, which is a class 6. What does a class 6 mean? It means that it adds a ya to the root. So, and it's an Atmanepada. So what you would expect, but is Mriyate. But in fact, what happens, because the r followed by ya wouldn't, it just is not allowed in Sanskrit phonetics. That's why it becomes mriyate.
James, please, can we see the iPad?
Sorry, thank you for reminding me. Thank you.
Thank you.
There we are. So mriyate is not allowed by Sanskrit phonetics, so we get mriyate. So the vocalic r, the subdotted r, becomes a full consonantal r with the vowel e. So that is what gives us mriyate. So grammatically, then, the first line is, or the first half line, the first pada, is clear enough. Najayate mriyate va kadachit on its own. It is never born, nor does it ever die. Note, by the way, the lines, because they're a bit long, They didn't have to split. I mean, they could equally have been written like that. And is it long enough to? No, you see, it's not quite long enough to put them along one line. So the lines are split here. Um, the lines are split here, but that's purely as a matter of editorial convenience. When you get to the end of a line and you've got this little end of line or end of sentence marker, which in Sanskrit is called a danda, which means a stick or a rod, also by extension used to mean punishment. If you dandayati somebody, you punish them. Even though we've split the lines on paper, as I say, purely as a matter of editorial convenience, you still make the sandhi. So you didn't say namriyateva kadachit nayam bhutva. No, you treat it as all one line. Najayate mriyateva kadachinnayam bhutva, and so on. You make so you continue with the sandhi, and you only stop doing the sandhi when you get to the proper end of a line, which is marked by a danda. This accounts for us having marked it as an N there and not a T. It would be a T on its own. Now we come to the slightly tricky one. Nayam bhutva bhavittava na bhuyaha. Is there anybody who feels inclined to give a comprehensible grammatical and syntactical analysis of this pada?
Not even having to watch the video.
Not even after watching? Did you say not even after watching the video?
Yeah, I had a question about it actually, which is what the second va is doing in that line.
Was that the only question you had about it?
Kind of. It makes sense apart from that, but if na and va together mean neither nor,
Yeah.
I couldn't see what that nor was doing in, because without that va, it would make better sense.
Okay. I myself had thought that was the minor difficulty, the lesser of the several difficulties in this pada.
No, it makes sense. It makes well.
Okay.
Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but it makes sense to me.
I think. Okay, let's deal with Paladin's question first. I think that what we've got here is na, va, neither, na, va, nor. Not quite as simple as that, but almost as simple as that.
Can you use two vas to mean either or?
Yeah, you're allowed to use one or two, and it's purely a matter of style. It doesn't make any difference to the meaning. Just as, for example, with the cha meaning and, you can put the cha after just, if you say A and B, you can say A, B, cha, or you can say A, cha, B, cha. So you can use the cha after each of the named things optionally, or just after the last one. So you have a freedom of style there. Similarly with va, you can use one or two. But my interpretation is this. First of all, let's deal with the knotty one. And I've got to make a bit of an effort here not to descend into incomprehensible gibberish. This is one of those moments when you might think you understand something. And anybody who has ever taught knows that there's quite a big difference between just reading it for yourself and thinking that you know it, and then realizing you've got to teach it, because when you've got to teach it, you try and make sure that you really do understand it. Whether I have succeeded in fully understanding it myself, and also whether I have fully succeeded in developing a comprehensible explanation of it, I will leave it to you, my good students, to be the judges. Vous en serez les juges. You will be the judge of it, the judges of it. So, Najayate mriyate va kadachin. Najayate, it is not born. Mriyate va, or dies. That's not quite good English, but it's okay in Sanskrit. It is not born, nor does it die. We'd say in better English. Also, you could say that the na does service for both verbs. So you could say najayate namriyateva. You could also say najayateva namriyateva. Neither is it born nor does it die. So najayate mriyateva, najayate namriyateva, najayate va namriyateva, all would be equally correct. And I am reasonably sure that I'm correct in saying that apart from style, there is no actual difference no substantive difference of meaning between them. If any of you disagree or have an expanded view on this, please do speak.
Can I ask something basic, James, please?
Yes, please, Paula.
Why couldn't it just be najayate namriyate without the other va?
It could have been. Yes, okay. As a matter of pure Sanskrit grammar and syntax, it could have been. However, the writer here particularly wanted to emphasize we can do it in English. We can say it is not born, it does not die. Okay, I mean that's reasonably good English. It is not born, it does not die. However, depending on a matter of style, we might say, neither is it born nor does it die. So it's just a matter of emphasis and style.
Okay, clear, thanks.
So the answer to your question is yes, what you said would be good Sanskrit, but more emphatic and more flowing style to have this emphatic neither nor. Najayate mriyate va. So I interpret this nayam bhutva bhavitava nabhuyaha.
James, before you go on to that, how does the kadachin fit in with that translation?
Kadachin is simply an adverb of time now, meaning never or ever, or in a negative sentence, never.
So how would you read that then? That neither is it born, nor does it die ever, nor does it ever die. What would you say?
Okay. Namriteva kadachin. Yeah, kadachin, I interpret that as covering both verbs. I mean, it could be interpreted to cover mriyate only. So you say never. You could start the question like this: never is it born, nor does it ever die. So the kadachit, on my interpretation, covers both verbs. Basically, it is never born and it never dies. But
and is it the first never you mentioned? Is it that first word, never is it born, nor does it ever die? Is that the kadachin, is that never at the beginning?
Yes, because kadachit on its own means at any time. In a negative sentence, it is not at any time or never. Just as the word, for example, our English word ever can mean at any. Do you ever do so-and-so? Do you at any time do so-and-so? And we negate ever by never, which is, used to be not ever and then just became in modern English never. So kadachin, if you just looked at the word kadachit on its own, what does that word mean in isolation without clues from the context? You would mean at any time. But now put it in a negative sentence and it automatically means never, not at any time. So it is not born or dies at any time, or it is not born nor does it die at any time. So before we move on to the second pada, are there any queries remaining on this first pada? So Nayam bhutva bhavitava na bhuyaha. The interpretation I give is my best shot at it. I'm happy with it. There could be an alternative interpretation, but I'd be surprised to learn that I'm wrong. But if you think I am, please tell me. So I interpret as meaning never, never, and not, meaning nor is it the case that never ayam, that means ayam atma, this atma, bhutva, having been, bhavita nabhuya, will be no more. So it is not the case, okay, it is not the case that this atma, the self, having once been, having come into existence, will ever go out of existence. So bhavita is what's known as the periphrastic future. There's more than one way for forming the future. Okay, let's just change it for a moment. Let's pretend that okay, it's accidentally highlighted in yellow. Let's pretend that bhavita is bhavishyati. And I think the meaning would be exactly the same if it were bhavishyati. So let's imagine that let's just take this na bhuyo bhavishyati. So bhavishyati, it will be. Na bhavishyati, it will not be. The word bhuyaha means more, or in a phrase or in a sentence indicating time, it means any more. So if we said na bhavishyati bhuyah or na bhuyo bhavishyati, it will be no more. It will not be more. It will not be any more. It will be, in literary English, we can say, it will be no more.
James, can I just ask a quick question? That root
Please.
boo, does it mean to exist in the sense of being now, or does it mean to come into existence? Because that's two very different, there's two really different ways of reading this sentence, aren't there, depending on how you're taking that?
It means both, and you've got to kind of know which is meant.
In which case, the neither nor thing could be explained by it's neither has it come into existence, nor will it stop ever. Will it come to be no more? Which would speak to the unborn in the next sentence. Whereas if it were taking it as meaning, having existed, it won't stop existing. That's subtly different, isn't it? To having come into existence, it won't stop existing, because it says elsewhere that it's unborn, which means you could interpret that sentence saying that it's neither having come into existence nor will it go out of existence. Do you see what I mean?
Well, Paladin, I have to thank you for introducing this additional complication into a line that was already complicated enough. But it's an interesting complication. May I come back to it? I promise I will. If I forget, I'm not deliberately forgetting. If I forget, please remind me, okay? So it means both, and we can have a few minutes on how interestingly it does mean both. So bhavita then is an alternative form of the future. So bhavita na bhuya, it will be no more. So I would rewrite the sentence in Sanskrit in more of an English style by saying nava, nor is it the case that, nor is it correct to say as follows, colon, just nava, bhutva, having once come into existence, bhavitana bhuya, it will be no more. So it's saying here, but to put the same idea in a different way, that this Atma, once it is established that it exists, then it cannot be said that a time will come when it will exist no more. Is there anybody who has any comment, either pro or contra, what I've said so far?
I'm not sure I really understand what you said, actually, James, to be honest.
Okay.
If you take
I
it,
know, I've got... Sorry.
So it's easy if you take out the na and the var, isn't it? So it's having this soul having existence will be no more.
But it's
And then
this soul, once it comes into existence, will be no more. Is the opposite?
That's what I mean. So then you negate it with the na.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah. I take.
So having existed, it will in the future exist no more, and then you negate the whole thing with the na.
Okay. Okay. Then I like that way of doing it. So let's look at it in this way. That I am Atma, this soul. Let's say the opposite of what it's saying. Bhavita, sorry. Bhutva, having come into existence, Bhavita Nabhuya, will be, though a time will come when it will be no more. So that is, then he's now negating that. It is not right to say never, nor is it right, and nor, meaning nor is it correct to say never, ayamatna, this soul, bhutva, having been, meaning once it has come into existence, will cease to be at some time in the future. In other words, will be no more. So he's negating the proposition that once this soul has come into existence, it can at some future point cease to exist.
Still not entirely convinced. I'd be more confident if it was a Buddhist text, but even given that it's not.
Okay, tell me then, Paladin, in what way would you be more confident if it was a Buddhist text?
Because it will be clearly saying it never arose and it never ceases, that kind of thing. Non-arising and non-ceasing. That would be a clear Buddhist way to talk about something.
That would be a very clear Buddhist way to talk about something.
But even so, given that it's saying it's unborn and permanent and it's never been born and it never dies, it seems more plausible to me, especially with the na-va construction, that it's saying neither has this come into existence, nor will it cease to be. Will it be no more?
But that would be the Buddhist way.
It would be more clear. I would be more 100%.
But that's not what this is saying.
Well, I'm not sure. No. I think it might be because it's saying it's unborn and permanent. So if it's unborn, if it's unborn, it's not come into existence, has it? Because to come into existence would be to be born.
Yeah.
I can't comment on the Sanskrit, but I know that the Gita wouldn't say that. That's my only.
Oh, okay.
And so, what are you saying that the Gita wouldn't say, Paula?
I think my understanding of the Gita and of this particular line is what you were saying originally. It is not the case that the soul, having been to existence, will ever go out of existence. That's sort of my understanding of this verse.
Okay.
But it's not Sanskrit based, it's just what I've learned.
Okay, right.
Well, I'll definitely defer to your knowledge of the Gita. So I'll accept it in that case.
And I have to defer to your knowledge of Sanskrit.
I wouldn't defer to mine, honestly.
I do not profess to have any expertise in the philosophy of Hinduism, nor particularly in the philosophy of the Gita. I think it is. Linguistically, it can be interpreted in two ways. Or can it be interpreted as bhutva, meaning it has arisen, it has come into being, and this now brings us back to Peldon's question that I was going to come back to. So maybe it just means the bhutva just means simply because of the fact that it is, therefore it can never not be.
So, James, it would help. Could you perhaps just literally translate each word, even though it might not make good English sense? That would help me.
Okay. Na I am not this. Or, by the way, it says na I am doesn't mean not this. It's just this. I am meaning this Atma, this soul.
Yeah.
Na bhutva, not having been.
Having been.
Bhavita will be.
Will be.
Va
or not.
And then nabhuya, read those two words together. Nabhuya would mean not anymore. I mean no more in the future.
Bhavita is, what do you call it? The periphrastic future.
Yeah, take that as exactly equivalent in meaning to the regular future bhavishyati.
And bhutva, what sort of?
Bhutva is the what we call the absolutive, meaning having been, having come into to existence. In fact, it could have two distinct meanings. One is having been in the sense of having been, he then died. So also it could mean once it has come into existence. So there's a bit of a slippery interpretation here. And I think people could interpret it in different ways, whether they've got a Buddhist slant on it or a Hindu slant on it, even within Hinduism, which particular school you belong to. It is not. I'm going to stand back from pontificating on that subject. I simply don't know enough about it. There are people here who know a lot more about it than I do.
Yeah, that's helpful, James. I mean, but part of my problem is that I really haven't got enough grammatical knowledge of this really to easily understand the various sort of endings and so on. That's
okay. What I'm going to, this is a very tricky one. I don't promise to spend the entire summer break, but I do promise to spend a little bit of the summer break giving some more analysis of this, just to see whether, even to help me explain it better.
James, please.
James, Madeline, yes.
After I heard all your comments and I reflected on it and I wrote down my notes.
Is this going to be one of those moments where I'm reminded of what I said? Okay.
I'm going to read to you what I wrote down to understand it myself, and would like to have your opinion on what I wrote.
Okay, so is this what you've written just now during this session?
Just now, after hearing all these comments,
right?
I wrote that the soul has an infinite spiritual existence, and it is not subject to earthly birth or death. I mean, it can in other means it exists in the body when the body takes birth, but when the body dies, it continues to exist.
Okay, right. Yes, I certainly agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think
I mean, my English may be not very perfect, but that's the way I understand it. I wrote it down like that.
Okay, absolutely fine. The way you've expressed it in English is absolutely fine. I think we've got, perhaps, if we simply, let's cut it down to a limited perspective, not the infinite past and the infinite future. If we just say, does this verse indicate that the Atma, we talk about the Atma or the Jiva, the Atma, I think, that it existed before this present body and it will continue to exist after the present body has died? The answer is yes, it is saying that.
Yes,
And we can now have a further discussion about the infinite past and the infinite future. But yes, it's indicating that the life of the soul or the existence of the Atma is not coterminous and doesn't begin and end with the life of the very limited lifespan of the body.
Yes.
On Paladin's point, then, this the verb bhu, which means to be, as so to speak, as indicating a state, and it also means to come into being. And you have to determine by context what is meant. So one word for reincarnation is punarbhava, literally again being again. But the bhava here means taking a fresh being or a fresh being as a human. So the punarbhava, coming into being again. It doesn't mean that the jiva, the soul, the entity is dead, but it's talked with the punarbhava actually does specifically relate to coming once again into human birth. From our root bhu, which, as I mentioned before, is cognate with a Germanic or English verb to be. And as I'm fairly sure I've mentioned in this group before, it's also cognate with the Greek, in classical Greek it would be pronounced Q, but in modern Greek, phi, as in physical. And that's from that same root as well, on the grounds that physis or physis in modern Greek, that which is physical, that which has a existence or physical existence. So the word to be and the word physical and bhu are all from the same root. Bhu has two verbal nouns. I'm bound to be more, but there are two in particular. It can make both bhava and bhava. Both forms exist. There is not a strict division between them, but broadly speaking, and remember this is not a strict boundary, normally speaking, bhava has more of a dynamic sense, coming into being, and bhava with a long r more has the sense of more of your state of being. So one is coming into being, and the other is the state of being. I may be confusing this with how they're used in Pali, so I'm fairly confident I'm right in saying that in connection with Pali. Just remember, both these forms exist, and there seems to be some slight difference of emphasis between them. Having said that, I would have expected, if that were of universal application, I would have expected to see punarbhava, not punarbhava. Let me just see what Williams.
But punar as a standalone word means just again, does it, James?
Punar means again, and with a little bit of variation in the consonants, it is cognate with the Greek palin, as in palingenesis, meaning rebirth. So punar palin, so Sanskrit punar, Greek palin are the same. Let me just, oops. Okay. Punarbhava, new birth, but I've also just seen that punarbhava, you can actually have both. Oops. Yeah, bhava. Both words exist. There are more entries for punarbhava. It may be that punarbhava is the more common word, in which case I was in error in giving you punarbhava as the more common one. But according to Monier-Williams, both words exist. And
maybe, James, in the Pratitya Samutpada, the ninth Nidana is bhava as a short form of punarbhava, because usually it's referred to the following life. Then we have a jati and jaramarana.
Okay, so is it bhava or bhava?
It's bhava with just one short a.
Okay, meaning coming into being again. Okay, right. Yeah, that tends to support my thesis that there is this difference of meaning. Let me just let's just see whether the bhava. Okay, so Monier-Williams gives bhava with a short a, coming into existence, arising, birth as the first meaning, and then being or a state of being as the second meaning. And then with Buddhists, so continuity of becoming, a link in the 12-fold chain of causation, as you've just mentioned. Now let's just, Marco, let's just now look at it for bhava. Yeah, Monier-Williams doesn't quite uphold the distinction in the way that I was saying. Maybe I was being a little bit too rigid in making a distinction. As I say, I sense that it exists, but it may be that my sense of that distinction is governed by my reading of Pali rather than by the reading of Sanskrit. But anyway, the fact is, Paldan, as we've just seen from these entries in Monier-Williams, that a state of being, as a state, or the dynamic coming into being, the word imports both. And also, the anubhava with a short a, anubhava. I think we discussed this several months ago, Marco. There's the anubhava and anubhava, because the anubhava, and in modern Hindi it's the same. Anubhav karna means to experience something. So anubhavati, the anubhava, is your experience. But there is also a different form of the word, it's formed exactly from the same root, an anubhava, dignity, authority. So in Buddhism, the word anubhava tends to almost mean something like grace or charisma. As we chant, Sabba Buddhanubhavena, by the anubhava of all the Buddhas. So Tesam anubhavena, by their say charisma or grace. the analysis of that word is we have the bhava, the being, and the anu, the prefix, meaning along or following or going with. It's the etymologically cognate with the Greek prefix ana, which means along with or in accordance with. For example, we have in Greek we have logia, reasoning, and analogia, mean reasoning in the same way, which gives us analogy, reasoning in accordance with something else, reasoning that follows something else. You say analogia also in Italian, Marco? Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay, right. So we have analogia in Greek, analogia in Italian, analogy, of course, in French. That means reasoning in accordance with something. So this anu, or ana in Greek, anu in Sanskrit, means accompanying or following. Eti, he goes, anueti, he follows. Mana, thinking something. Anumana is agreeing and thinking along, thinking in the same way as somebody else. Here, the anu, it's one of those lovely words. The anubhava is that kind of that which accompanies or goes with your being. So, for example, the enlightened person, the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, just because of who they are, they emanate a certain grace and charisma. It's what accompanies their being. That's how I interpret the anubhava. And as for the other meaning of to experience, yeah, you're there. We're here we are, and you're being with it. You're going along with it. You're being with it. You're experiencing it. You have your own sense of being, accompanying the experience of whatever it is that you are experiencing. So being along with it.
May I be wrong when I recall from the Heart Sutra that Avalokiteshvara started to speak according to the Buddha Anubhava, and I don't know if I correctly interpret it as the meditative experience of the Buddha who was in deep meditation, or just the grace of the Buddha descending upon Avalokiteshvara while starting to say Shunyata Rupam,
Yes.
etc.
Okay. I think, Marco, my first inclination, which I cannot claim is right, and I think I need to know more about this, and maybe you can help me as well. My first inclination would be to say that with the word anubhava, it suggests that this emanating power that comes out of the Buddha. And it was so it's not talking about the Buddha's own experience, it's talking about that, the charisma, the power that comes out of the Buddha. I can't say that's definitively right. That's just on the basis of what I now know, right or wrong, that would be my first interpretation of it. And I would certainly be respectful towards the other interpretation of the meditative experience of the Buddha, though I would at the moment feel more inclined to put that in a footnote as another possible in interpretation. But no, I mean, as so often happens, the more I think about it, the more I think you could be right in that interpretation. And it's
just a point which is not clear, and often also the commentaries don't help a lot.
Yeah, I'm wondering, would it help you in your interpretation if you interpreted the anubhava as the charisma, the emanating grace of the Buddha?
Yes, it could be, because at the end of the sutra, it's reaffirmed by the Buddha when saying sadhu, sadhu, coming out of the meditative absorption.
Right.
I've heard this explained recently as a specific power to enable Shariputra to be able to see and hear Avalokiteshvara, because as an Arya, he wouldn't normally be able to perceive a bodhisattva directly.
So you mean it was the kind of a psychic power? It was the specific power that enabled him enabled Avalokiteshvara to see.
If it's the part that I'm thinking of, and I don't know it in Sanskrit, so I'm thinking of the translation. But that's an explanation I heard recently about what is meant by that, the power of the Buddha. This was able to happen.
That does kind of make sense. So we can translate. Okay, if we're forced to do a translation, we can translate as power / grace, something like that. But it's that force that emanates from a being like the Buddha or a Bodhisattva simply by virtue of what he has.
Yeah, I'm not really arguing with Marco's
spiritually.
point. I just thought it was an interesting aside as to what the specific power or grace or whatever it is was conferring on Shariputra at that point.
So what power, Marco, what power was it conferring on Shariputra? Remind us.
Yeah, the power of answering the question about what does it mean to practice prajna paramita.
Okay, right. Yes, I've got it. Yeah. So, goodness me, I feel I'm going to need a summer break after this.
Could you say, in relation to that, wouldn't simply authority be the most straightforward way to interpret that? Without any sort of going into special powers and whatever.
So which one are you?
Anubhava, wouldn't authority be the simplest way to interpret that in those sort of contexts?
Authority?
Yeah. The authority of the Bodhisattva.
Okay, I mean maybe. Okay, but
I mean, it's not a very sort of mystical sort of word.
No, and also maybe I'm the wrong person to answer because I've made my living as a lawyer ever since the early 70s. When you talk about authority, you see, I've got an entirely different hat on, or wig in this case, where we interpret authority and as a lawyer. But I look at authority as very much a temporal thing. Who is in charge? Qua auctoritate loquis, and by what authority speakest thou? Yeah, well, certainly, I'm the wrong person to ask. But anyway, I would be very hesitant, Barry, to translate it as authority because of the temporal meaning that has, and the exercise of temporal power.
In this context, it's a bit more nebulous than that. He's not kind of allowing it or permitting it. It's in a normal situation. An ordinary Arya would not be able to see or hear a bodhisattva on whatever refined plane they're at, if you like. So they have to be. It's like it makes it possible for Shariputra to be able to speak to Avalokiteshvara and to be able to hear Avalokiteshvara's answer.
Yeah.
So that could be, as Marco says, it's like his meditative power or his, I don't know what the right word is. Maybe there isn't a right word in English, actually.
I don't think we have a single word in English for it. And we have the Greek word charisma, but which is kind of something like that. Paula, do you use the word charisma in modern Greek?
Yes, absolutely.
And what kind of meaning would you give it in modern Greek?
Well, it is, I mean, there is this notion of grace, as in charis, as opposed to charisma. And charisma is more the gift, whereas charis is the grace. I mean, that's sort of my sort of differentiation between the two. But I mean,
and of course, from that same word, of course, you have Evcharisto. I thank him. I acknowledge. I give grace back, or I acknowledge the grace I have received from you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, right. So in English, as you may know, we use the word charisma in the sense of something that emanates from a person just by being there, by being who he is.
Yeah, charm. It's the charm, right?
It's more than there is it could be a charm, but I mean, people like Hitler or Stalin, they may have lacked charm, but on the other hand, they would have had charisma. So it's kind of an emanating power.
It's like grace, grazia in
Yes,
Italian,
it is a bit like grace. Yes.
and giving back grace to you, grazia. Thank you.
Indeed, yes, yeah. Yeah, so in fact, that's right. So the Italian, when you say grazie in Italian, you are expressing pretty much the same meaning as when you say Evcharisto in Greek.
We learned from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, say again?
I suppose the Romans learned this way of conversing, of say thanks.
Yeah, I think in Latin you say gratias ago. I give gratias, don't you? Gratias. I get it. Yeah, gratias agamus Domino. Let us give that thanks to the Lord. If I can remember from goodness me, more than 60 years ago now, when I last was speaking Latin in a Catholic church. So there we are. So does that adequately, if we can use adequately in a circumstance like this, Paladin, does this adequately deal with your query about being and coming into being?
It was a very detailed answer. Thank you.
Regard it as tentative and open as always to further exploration. So let's go on to the next one. Ajo nityaha shashvato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Ajaha. Beware of translating that as a goat. Although the word aja also means a goat in Sanskrit, here clearly it means unborn. How the word, I'm not quite sure the etymology of the aja meaning goat is. It would, anyway, that's a matter of pure speculation that need not detain us here. So note that, let me just call up there we are. So I'm in trouble with my pen again. From this root jan, when it appears as the final member of a compound, all that happens is the end drops. So it appears as, sorry, pen problems again. Just appears as ja. And for example, you have viveka jan sukham, a sukha, a happiness that is viveka jam, that is born of viveka. So viveka meaning putting yourself in seclusion or taking yourself away from the world. It's used both in a physical sense of seclusion and also in the meditation sense. In the jhanas, you experience the viveka jang sukham. They literally viveka born. So you very frequently find it used as as the final member of a compound, meaning born of or arising from, arising by reason of. And all that's happened here is you've got the simplest possible compound from the root jan, just aja. So ajan becomes aja, unborn. So aja and ajata, also unborn, mean virtually the same thing. I'm not sure if there is any distinction of meaning between them. So the ajam and the ajatam, the unborn, I think they mean the same. For example, when the Buddha said, was in Pali, Atti bhikkhave, there is amongst the ajatang, abhutang, akatang, asankatang. The ajatam, the unborn, the abhutam, that which has not come into existence, akatang, which is akritam in Sanskrit, the unmade, and asankatam, which in Sanskrit would be the asanskritam, the uncompounded or the unconditioned. So if here we had ajato instead of ajo, it would give exactly the same meaning. So ajo, nitya. Many of you will recognize that word from the three signs of being. In Pali, it's anicca, dukkha, anicca, anatta. In Sanskrit, dukkham, anityam, anatma. So suffering, impermanence, not non-self. So nitya means permanent. Does anyone know why? You can even break that word down. It's quite interesting actually. I found it quite interesting to break it down. There is a suffix tya. Not very common, but there are some common words that use it, meaning belonging somewhere. So for example, the adverb or preposition ama means in the home of, belonging with. Rather the same idea as the French word chez, chez nous, chez vous. So the amatya, which often means that like a minister or close confidant of a ruler, the amatya is the one who belongs within the inner circle, belongs ama, the king, within the close to the king. So nitya could be construed to mean something that belongs within. So the impermanence, is there something within it that is a permanent entity? This might be a long shot. I wouldn't feel totally happy about standing up and defending this thesis, but it's something that did cross my mind. Could it mean as the nitya means it's got something that permanently belongs within it? Maybe it's just my sad little mind. Whenever I see a word and that is the meaning, I'll say, why? Get back to the root, back to the root. Mostly it's helpful. Sometimes it's not, and you find you're beating your head against a brick wall, but it's okay. We carry on. Anyway, ajo nityaha. So unborn, permanent. Shashvato. Means again, have I dealt with it here? Shashvata, eternal. It seems to come from an old root, shash, meaning recurring again and again. I haven't really managed to find an entirely satisfactory explanation of the root of this word, but the meaning is clear enough. The idea is it is eternal, without a beginning and without an end. Purano, the ordinary meaning of that word is just old. And then, and you get the in Sanskrit literature, the Puranas means the ancient stories, ancient texts. not as ancient as the Vedas, but these are the old stories. Again, it's quite a simple word. It's from the word pura, meaning before, which we have in Latin as pre, and we have in English before, before. So it just means that which belongs to something that happened a bit before, and therefore from olden times. So Purana suggests, well, as I say, basic meaning of old, but in a context like this means existing from an infinite past or an entire eon, an entire day of Brahman, an entire kalpa. So here we have the Shashvatah Ayam. So again, Ayam, masculine singular, this Ayam Atma, this soul is Ajaha, unborn, Nityaha, permanent, Shashvatah, eternal, and Puranaha, ancient, old. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. It is not killed. Hanyamane sharire, the body being killed, or even if the body is killed, or when the body is killed. This is the locative absolute construction. Is there any? I don't know whether I'm getting so old now. There aren't very many people left who seem to remember what the ablative absolute is in Latin. So there's a phrase like rebus sic stantibus means that being so. Rebus, literally things standing thus, meaning that being the case. And you put it in the ablative in Latin. Will you put it in the locative or sometimes in the genitive in Sanskrit? So it just means the body being killed. We use exactly the same construction in English, except of course we no longer have the cases. So nahanyate it is not killed. Hanyamane sharire, the body being killed. For example, when we say in English, that being the case, we're using exactly the same as the absolute ablative, so the ablative absolute construction of Latin. Since that is the case, because that is the case, that being the case. In Sanskrit, and I think you can say the same in Pali as well, the normal use is the locative. But you can put it in the genitive also. But if you put it in the genitive, it has a slightly different feeling to it. If you put it in the genitive, the idea is that you're expressing surprise or shock or something unusual about it. For example, the Buddha, when he was 29, left home with his parents weeping. In the Pali, that's put in the genitive absolute because even though they were weeping, saying, what a thing to do. And for example, if we have our phrase, Nero fiddled while Rome burnt. You would put that in the genitive absolute in Sanskrit because you were expressing shock at Nero's behavior. His capital city was on fire, and there he was playing the fiddle. So you're expressing a sense of shock. But here, this is just the ordinary locative. Just when one thing happens, another happens, or that doesn't happen.
Is that always the case with the genitive absolute then, James, that it would be expressing that surprise or dissonance or something like that?
I'm not quite sure whether it's right to say whether there's an absolute demarcation line, but that is certainly the overall feeling of it, that the locative absolute is just a bare statement. One thing happens at the same time or immediately after another happens, just a statement. Whereas the genitive, you're expressing shock, surprise, criticism, anger, or whatever it is. Oh, wait, something's wrong here. So it's not an absolute distinction, but you will normally find that there is that tone to the genitive absolute. Whereas the Buddha left home with his parents crying. You see, to express the genitive absolute case, even though his parents were crying, it's contrary to expectation, as it were. Back to pure grammar. Nahanyate. Now, this is one for Barry. Now, Barry, you may remember.
Yes.
Within the last couple of sessions, we've looked at this root han.
Yes.
And it's
hanyate is the passive, isn't it? With the te ending, which is atmani padma, whatever.
Atmanipada.
Atmanipada.
Yeah. I'm glad to see you've got it right first time, Barry. You have mastered that. So the point here is han is a class 2 verb. Like mostly it can be a class 1. Mostly it's a class 2 verb, and so it makes its present tense hanti. But as we now have all got firmly in our minds, when you are making the passive form of the verb, the class that the verb belongs to is completely irrelevant. That's why, for example, in fact, the very example that we were dealing with a couple of weeks ago, the root jna, to know, it's a class 9 verb. It puts a na in it, slightly irregular, because it's not jnanami, but janami. And Barry, I was a little bit cruel and unkind to you, Barry. I'm sorry about it. You took it really well, and then we've learnt it perfectly now. You were struggling with making the passive. You thought it ought to be something jananayati or something like that.
Well, I'm a beginner, you know, James.
But you are a kind of beginner. I don't take that fully. You're a beginner who's making very rapid steps, and you learn quickly. So you get told once, and you've got it.
Oh, thank you, James.
So, what is the passive form from the root nya then, Barry?
Nyayate.
Exactly so. You see, got it. Okay. So that from nya, it's a class 9 verb, which is irrelevant for the passive. It's jnayate. Han is a class 2 verb, irrelevant for the passive. It's just hanyate. That's where the formation of the passive is actually pretty simple. You know, there are a few irregularities, but basically it's pretty simple. So nahanyate, just it is not killed. We are now looking at the hanyamana, this is the present passive participle, or I should say the present atmanepada participle, and it's exactly cognate with the ending. It's a pity that Paola has left us, because exactly cognate with the ending menos in Greek, which is it's etymologically the same. So, for example, prolegomena, not the most common word in English, but prolegomena means preliminary comments, preliminary remarks. Prolego, I say in advance. Prolego. So the prolegomena are things said in advance. In other words, your introductory comments to something are the prolegomena. And it's formed, the passive participle, not the past participle would be hatta. This is the present passive participle, being killed, in the process of being killed, or having just been killed. So when the body is killed. So what do you do to make the, well, you can see right here what you do. You take the root han, you take the passive stem hanya, and just put mana on the end of it. So hanya mana means being killed, somebody who is being killed. So nahanyate, it is not killed. Hanyamane sharire, the body being killed, or if the body is killed. So is this okay? I appreciate that this pada is a little bit complex, but the second part of it, is that all completely clear? Okay. The word sharira, meaning a body, as I think I've mentioned before in this group, there are three main words for body. There's kaya, deha, sharira. And Shri Animala, you've told us that in Sinhala you do use the word deha, but only to refer to a dead body. Is that correct?
Bodies.
Okay, right. Do you use the word in Sinhala sarira or sharira?
Yes, sharir is, yeah. Sharir is a body, yeah.
Does it have any particular meaning, like deha, we know modern Sinhala means a dead body, but does sarira have any particular meaning in Sinhala?
Yeah. The sharira, if we say body, we say sharira. And I have seen in a lot of death notice, they have written deha like that. Not the, yeah.
Okay.
Not the, they said deha.
Okay, right, got it. So the idea of deha and dehin, it's the word within Indian, dehin is that which possesses a body, like yoga, yogin. A yogin is somebody who does yoga. The word is very frequently used in the Bhagavad Gita. Dehin, nominative singular dehi, is that which possesses a body. So we are all dehinaha, possessors of dehas. So the true self is a dehi. It is not the body, but it possesses a body, or is currently residing in a body. The word sharira appears to come from the root shri, meaning to lean on or to rest on. And the sharira seems then, I don't think we can be definite about this, but it seems to have the idea that the sharira is a kind of a resting place, a support for the soul. So the deha is just to form, the sharira is a kind of resting place, or a support that we use for human existence. And the kaya is also means body, but it's from the root chi, meaning an accumulation. So kaya is the body in its aspect of the accumulation, a whole mass of all the different parts and systems that go to make up the human body. The word deha, by the way, has an interesting etymology. There are several letters, several sounds in Sanskrit that have unaccountably turned up as an F in Latin. So, for example, we have hanti, turns up as fend in Latin, fendere. We have dharma, which turns up in Latin as firmus, as in terra firma, an expression we use in English, terra firma, we pronounce it firm. The root di means to shape or to fashion something, to give it a shape. It turns up in English as dough, D-O-U-G-H, the flour and the water, that you can make a dough when you mix flour with water. It turns up in Latin as fig, figura. Also, a figment of your imagination is something that is created by your imagination. So it doesn't look like it on the surface, but according to the books of etymology, it is so that the di and deha root is the same as the Latin figura, figment, and just making a shape. So before we...
James, sorry.
Yes, please, Paul, Marco.
There is also sometimes reference to kosha, like Annamaya kosha,
Yeah.
a body made of food, or Manomaya kosha, a body made of mind. Is it kosha also another word commonly used?
Kosha is more like a container or a sheath of something. That the kaya consists of an accumulation of things. And you can do that in two ways. I don't think there are alternatives. I think you can do them at the same time. You can treat the kaya as the accumulation of all of its parts, its physical parts, but equally as including the Annamaya kosha, like a sheath or a covering or a container. So the gross part is the Annamaya kosha, literally consisting of food, because it's by the physical food that we eat that we have our physical bodies. And we have I can't remember the correct order. There's the Pranamaya kosha, the Anandamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha. So these are all regarded as like layers or sheaths, like the idea that a bit like a Russian doll, one fitting inside the other. And in meditation, for example, according to the Hindus, normally we are in our feeling, we are existing in our Annamaya kosha, the sheath consisting of food. But then we can go back through the various koshas till we get closer and closer to the Atma.
Yes, so Anandamaya kosha in deeper meditation, they say.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Bye then, Palden. Bye. So the Anandamaya kosha, literally the sheath consisting of bliss or joy. So the word literally is a sheath or a container that you fit something else in. In fact, in modern Hindi, the word for a dictionary is a shabda kosha, a kosha for words. So you put all the words. Yes. In fact, I have the Sanskrit Hindi shabda kosh here. The concise Hindi shabda kosh, the word container. So that is another, I think, interpretation of why we talk about the kaya. So our human body consists not just of the Annamaya kosha, but all of the other koshas. It's the kaya, the accumulation of them.
And also they define the different sharira, like shtula sharira, sushma sharira.
Stula and sukshma, that's right, yes. Yes, so you have the stula means a bit like the English word stolid. So stula means gross, solid, the physical body, and the sukshma has the meaning of subtle. Yeah. Okay then, so I will bid you farewell until we meet again.
James, could I just ask you one last question?
Yes, please, Barry, please do.
I've been trying to find a way of printing or downloading these pages, these sheets, and I can't find how to do it.
So which sheets?
This one we've got in front of us with each with the breakdown of each verse. This.
I mean, the one that I'm flicking up and down now on the shared screen.
Yeah, but where do I find that to download, or can I not?
It's on James Drive.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I downloaded it. I have it
Yeah,
in my computer.
It is okay. Let me just get rid of this one. Oh, let me bring you up my hang on, let me find it for you. Let me get rid of these things. Crowded screen. There we are. So let me bring up the study resources guide. Here we are. I'll produce a new version of this over summer. So you have the study resources guide, do you?
I do. At least I have one version of it, but all I could find were the links to each of these sessions.
Okay.
That's not really what I wanted.
No, it's not. Study resource guide. So actually, the whole thing's got so damn big, I can't even find my own way around it anymore. YouTube and Google Drive material.
Is that the one?
Yeah. So let's see if it works. Ooh. My drive, James Whelan Sanskrit. Here we are. And it should be reasonably comprehensibly indexed. So let's go to what we're doing now. Bhagavad Gita. Annotated text. Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 2, verses 20, analysis document. Actually, what happens is I've made a Word document and a PDF for each one, in particular where I've used the Devanagari script. The reason I have done that, and I'll come back to your query in a moment, Barry, is that the Word document, when I put it into my Google Drive, it changes this typeface.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't like. It's purely aesthetic matter for me. It changes the typeface into whichever one that this is, which I don't actually personally like. That is why I also have done exactly the same document in PDF format, which retains the typeface that I do like. So you have the option, you can do both. You've got the Word document with a typeface I don't like, or the PDF with a typeface that I do. So that's where you will find it. So just go to my Google Drive, and it should all be there. If you can't find anything, hopefully you'll be able to find everything you want to find. But if you can't, please let me know. And if there's an error somewhere, I'll correct it and tell the entire group.
Could I possibly trouble you, James, to send me a link to your Google Drive? Just thinking, because I don't remember seeing that on the version of the the resources document that I've got.
Yes, I don't think I can blame you too much, because the study resources guide, which started as a short, simple document many years ago, has just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So anyway, yes, what I will do, when I send the group email for this, I will send a separate link, which just a normal link that you can copy and paste into your browser, and it will take you to the Google Drive.
Oh, thank you very much, James. That
right.
If I can download them, I'll be an expert next time we meet, James.
Very good, very good. You've said it now in public, recorded. Okay then. Well, thank you very much to you all, and we'll decide when to start in September. I haven't actually worked it out yet.
Thank you, James.
But
Have a good
this will
summer.
have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
summer
Thank
and
you.
or
Yeah.
winter in your case, Srinamala. You're down in the southern hemisphere. But otherwise, all a blessed time, and I'll see you again in a few weeks' time.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Okay,
Grazie.
thank you,
Yeah,
thank
have a
you,
nice
thank you.
holiday.
Bye,
Ciao, ciao.
bye,
Bye.
goodbye, ciao.
Bye bye.
Ciao.